All right, we're live. Sorry it's been a while. Had a bit of a wild week. Speaking of the wild week, there is a foster cat, a new one, behind me, and I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope she stays quiet. So, as you probably read in the title, I got a little bit of work to do on an animatic, and I have some fun designs I need to get some extra progress done, and I felt, hey, why not bring everyone else along for the journey? So, this is a little different than my traditional animatics. It's not a black and white or even a color palette. It looks like this. Now, you might wonder why I'm calling it an animatic, and there's two reasons for that. One, algorithm. It just does better than saying a PMV or an animation. And two, the motion in it isn't exactly as clean as a traditional animation. So it just didn't feel right to call it that when I myself don't feel it's at the quality of my actual animations. Its motion kind of reminds me of an animatic. So this has been a little bit of a secret side project I've been working on, and it's very close to being done, so figured I'd get this panel done and then we'll go on to character design. And yeah, this is another mermaid animatic. I like her. She's a fun character. This little goober. Well, all I really have left to do in this is shading and adding a little bit of light detail. Now that might sound simple, and in some cases it is, but I found for this project specifically, it's kind of tricky to know where the light's coming from. I think you should do the background first. That's usually a good rule of thumb. If you don't know what your light source is, do the detail for your background first. It honestly will help you. I think I want it to come down this way. So if it's coming down this way, we need to add shadow here in the grass. I actually have a little trick for this. Since I have these add-on brushes, let's see if I can find it, grass detail. I have these add-on brushes. I unfortunately don't remember the creator who made them. If I find them, I'll make sure to link something in the description. However, they're free to use, and they are amazing for paintings and large-scale projects such as this. But I have a little trick, is I will get the color of my shadow, and I will paint over the grass with its original grass brush. Or a grass brush in general. I think it's this long, loud grass. Yeah, that works. Honestly, I find these make the shadows look more realistic while also maintaining the shape without having to do it by hand. There we go. Kind of gives it that blue texture. And we'll do a little bit down here as well. Just have to bring that back up so I can see. There we go. Now, I don't know if I even want blue for this background, but I guess that's the point of experimenting. Whoops. Don't want that grass brush. I have a feeling I owe a bit of an explanation to why there's another foster cat in the room. Well, this actually is a pretty interesting story. Now, I'm an animal lover. I love dogs, I love cats, I even love birds. But the only pets I've ever owned in my life since I was a child were cats. I didn't get my first dog until I was probably late teens. I can't remember the date exactly. Numbers are not my strong suit. But yeah, I've always grown up with cats, so I have a soft spot for them. Well, shortly before I got this kitten, who we fostered, his name was Champ, or Champion as his full name. Shortly before he arrived, there was this little calico cat that would always come through the neighborhood alongside a black and white female. Now, I knew the calico was female, because, well, most calicos are female. Now, there are male calicos, but that's a story for a different time. So I had a feeling they were both females, and typically a female cat is more friendly than a male. I personally think this has something to do with just natural instincts, but these two were very friendly. You could pet them, and the black and white one would actually roll over and let you pet her belly. She was a lot more like a dog than she was a cat. The calico, however, needed to be swayed with food, which I had extra on me and I managed to feed her. This would go on for about, maybe half a year of me just taking care of her and looking after her. Well, I would soon see very little of the black and white cat, and instead I would see the calico with 4 kittens. There was 2 gingers, a tortoise shell, and a black and white kitten. Now, no, the black and white kitten is not a child of the other black and white cat. Actually, my sister told me the reason why Callie's the name of the calico. Yes, I know, very original. But the reason why Callie had a black and white kitten is most likely because of the genes that are required to even have a calico. One of them is a black and white cat. So that's our running theory right now. I don't know why I'm doing this individually. Okay, anyway. So, they had kittens, and my original plan to have the 2 female cats taken in for a catch and release program would no longer work, as there's no way I'm separating them from their mother, and I did not have the time or resources to take care of the entire family. So we just set it aside, and it would be another half a year, so 1 year now, of watching this calico cat named Callie across the street taking care of her kittens. Well, now fast forward to recently this year. The kittens have grown up, they actually now have kittens of their own, and this whole neighborhood is full of cats. However, Callie kept coming by. She would keep visiting. And I recently made the sad discovery that she no longer had not just her own kittens, but her new litter had passed away. So I seized my opportunity, got her in the house, and now she is officially no longer able to add to the cat population. Which, good. But now we have a foster in our home because the original plan was to let her go, but she is honestly really sweet, really nice, and may or may not be a part of the cat distribution system. She's super friendly, and I would love to see her at a home and living with people rather than going to fend for herself on the street. Her daughter, who was the tortoise shell, and I sometimes still see, she's feral. You can't even get near her, and I think I would be depriving her of a life if I was to remove her permanently. Callie's honestly seems to be really enjoying the home. Right now, she's behind me taking a nap. Okay, I said I wouldn't do that individually, and I don't care for how it looks. I was trying something, didn't work. Okay, let's see how our shadow looks in blue. Maybe we should tint it a little bit. Okay, so that's the story behind Callie in a kind of a nutshell. Nothing super tragic or tremendous, but now we're in kind of a sticky situation of what to do with this cat that is currently living in our home. We have, as a family, because I live with my family, we have 3 cats now. A big black and white senior cat, and a small gray, actually he's not small, he's big too, and a gray cat who we were told was a Maine Coon, but honestly looks more like a Russian Blue. They're doing alright, I would say, with Callie in the home. I just don't know if it would ever be a permanent arrangement. Right, so we want the light coming down from this way. I think, yeah, this would work. Don't want to do anything too tremendous here. I just want to have just a little bit of light to suggest where the shadows are coming from. I'm also going to scribble in some rough cloud shapes to help with the background. I feel like it's a little empty. There you go, it looks nice. Oh, whoopsie, accidentally took off the layer. Actually, I think I like them better than normal. Yeah, it looks nicer. So there's our background. Now that I know where the light's coming from, we can now add the shadows and detail to our characters, like clay. I actually don't know if I just want this single pose of clay or do I want to add an extra one for a little bit more motion. But that's a decision for the future me. Right now I just want to get what I have done and move on to the character design. Because that's really what I'm here for today. But I can't neglect my work. I do care about this project. It's just been really slow in the last few days. Oh, for one, there was a big cat in this house that isn't mine. So that's always entertaining. Yeah, honestly, for those who are interested in, like, fostering animals, yeah, it is sad when you have to let them go, and it is kind of difficult on your time, but if you have the time, space, and money, it isn't bad. I actually quite enjoy taking care of animals. It's like a small love of mine. Nah, I don't want that. Okay, I think that will be Clay's shadow for now. Actually, do I want to do a shadow on him, or do I want to do full color? Yeah, hold on. Let's try something. Instead of doing a shadow, we are going to grab... what is it called? Soft light. Now, I don't know a bunch about the layers in art media, like Procreate or Clip Studio or whatever you use. I don't know all the layers and what they do exactly, but I found that soft light has this kind of tinting where it chooses dark colors of what you're originally working with. And in this case, it kind of creates a dark blue outline around clay. So that's what I'm kind of aiming for. I kind of like everything being a blue color palette for this work. You know, it feels like in the last few days, I talk about nothing but this story. And I think, honestly, it has its pros and cons, being obsessed with your own work. One of the obvious pros being, if you're excited about something, you have the motivation to work on it. And honestly, that's one reason why I push so strongly for creating something that you genuinely want to. There's no greater motivation than you being your own cheerleader and your own character's biggest fan. But one of the cons I noticed with obsessing over Ivar in the last few weeks have been my neglect of other things. Now, this might be only something another artist would understand, but it's hard to share your love to all your characters. Like, if you have OCs and they're not all in the same world, you tend to find days where you prefer the company of this one. But then you really, really want to write a story about, I don't know, what's in my case? I want to write a story about Kanu, my Wolka, instead of Ivar. But there's just not that many hours in a day. This is 24, right? No, 25, okay. Man, as of recently, I've devoted my time to the Ivar side of things. Yeah, I like that look much better. Which, you know, isn't inherently bad. I've been having a lot of fun. I really enjoy these characters, and honestly, I think I like the villains even more. Because it's made to be similar to a superhero adventure. But I do really care about my Wolkas. They're my other story, Wolkas of the Stone. I really do care about them. Their story was interesting, and honestly, there's still so many aspects about it I didn't really have a chance to explore yet. I wanted to write a short story, and part of me is still planning on doing that. It's just, you know, once again, not enough hours in a day. Now, if I could somehow either A, magically create time in a day, or be two people at once, that would be really helpful. Imagine the kind of work you could get done. If it was more than just you working on something. Yeah, we seem to shy it away from the use of shadow in this picture. I actually kind of prefer just using the light as a suggestion of shadow. No, I'm gonna highlight the crest too. I think it looks nice. So what are we drawing? This is, like I said in the beginning, an animatic, kinda. But it's a little bit of a surprise, but I can tell you who's involved. For obvious reasons, it is another Ivar adventure, this time with clay. However, we get to see Mermaid again, an all-time favorite of my villain cast. I have a lot of villains for the Ivar universe, and that's something that we'll discuss here later, if time allows. But Mermaid, I hold her a little bit dear to my heart for a few reasons. One, I find her comedy quite entertaining. Anytime she's in a room, it's just almost inviting to write about this character. But two, I also share her with my sister. She helped plenty, and honestly, I don't think Mermaid would be half the character she is without her. But I kind of share her with my sister. It's an inside joke of ours, hence even the name Mermaid. Part of it was a joke on Clay's behalf, and the other half was based off a show we watch. Yeah, but Mermaid's pretty much every obsessed person ever in media, someone who just wants to be with someone so badly that they'd do anything to have them. But she didn't start out that way. Originally, she was designed as kind of more of a Scooby-Doo type villain. Yeah, it's 25. But yeah, she was designed as a Scooby-Doo kind of villain where she's using this disguise to scare people away, and it was never intended that her story stretch into more than one episode. You know, at the end of the episode, she was meant to be defeated, and that would be that. Well, of course, we fell in love with Mermaid, and now as a result, she is everywhere. Honestly, I think another reason why I enjoy her so much as a character is that she has plenty of layers. And you might hear this a lot amongst people who create characters, that it's important to have depth and meaning and all that fun stuff. But that's something that I treasure about Mermaid. There's only a handful of Ivar chosen villains that I wish to explore at a deeper and almost personal level with them to understand why they became a villain, and Mermaid is among those few. She might not be as remorseful as a couple of the others, but she does have a bit of background that shaped her. And honestly, I think that's so important for a villain. Now, I'm not saying every bad guy's gotta look the same way or be some heartfelt story, and I really don't care for the movement where we're trying to feel sympathy for bad guys in literally every film, because that's not the original design for an antagonist in any form of media. My personal belief is that an antagonist should be challenging the perception of your main character's worldview, whether it be something he believes internally about himself, something he believes about the world, or a way he sees those around him. The villain is meant to be the budding force where your heads collide, your two worlds, titans even, fighting. And why is that fin all stretched? No, seriously, what happened to that fin? Oh, hold on, we're gonna fix that. I don't know how that slipped by me the first time. But yeah, your villain is meant to be an opposing force, and while I'm not saying it's impossible to write a villain that people sympathize with, that's actually the main goal of some types of villains in media. It's perfectly fine. My problem is where we try to do it with every single villain. It kind of takes away its value, especially when there's no thought actually behind the villain's motives, the villain's backstory, and it's just kind of thrown at you at the very end. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Wish I had a good example on me, but unfortunately I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head here, so. But there's two types of villains. If you've been watching these streams for a while, you probably have an idea what I'm about to say. But there's two types of villains. There's your comic relief villains that are never meant to be taken too seriously. And then there's your, what's a good word or a good name to call them? Your arch enemy type villains. The people that genuinely inspire fear in the protagonist. A distinct difference between the two is one is made to bring a smile to your face, to laugh at, and maybe at some point you'd take them seriously. But for the majority of their time on screen, they are just meant to be a comedic foil, something that the hero could bounce off of and be, fun for the entire family, silly and enjoyable. While the arch enemy style villain is truly meant to make you think. Whether it be worrying that the hero will be able to overcome the struggles by the villain, or maybe you have to question your own life. Those are the really good villains that truly make you sit and ponder and maybe even realize that they're correct, that the way they think isn't inherently wrong. Are their actions? Sure. But sometimes they're thinking, and that's the scary thing, sometimes a villain is right. And that makes it hard for both you and the hero to truly forget. Because there is no forgetting. Now let's see if that motion looks good real quick. We need to probably move this fin over now since I took away this weird stretchiness. Yeah, hold on. Let me move this one. Now, something I don't hear talked about a lot is how to know what kind of villain you should have in your story. Now, it's not an exact science, as I myself are still learning plenty about villains, and Ivar has its fair share of both. But I would first ask myself, what exactly do I want my villain to achieve? Is he trying to achieve something devastating, like world domination? Or is he trying to achieve something almost comical, like infinite amounts of money? Does he just want to be rich? Does he want something so petty that it's laughable? Those are my first bits of stomping grounds I would go along in and see if this works. If I find my villain's motives aren't exactly, what's the word, to the heart and deep, then he's probably a comic relief villain. Now, I don't think it's wrong to use either of these villains. Both of them have their time and place. The important thing is to balance them. Because in a comical villain can and will get on a viewer's nerve if they ruin a serious moment. A serious villain can be a little off-putting if the entire film was designed specifically to be silly and cartoonish. Now, there's one example I would argue that had made this work. And it might sound strange, but hear me out. And that would be the movie Kung Fu Panda by DreamWorks. The entire first half of the movie is designed to be pretty silly. Now, there's serious elements. They let you know from the first half that the main character, Po, wants a different life. He doesn't want to work at his father's restaurant. He wants to be a kung fu master like his idols. But overall, there's a lot of jokes, silliness, non-seriousness, and the only real intention you have of a serious film is the idea that they're looking for a dragon warrior. Now, spoilers ahead if you've never seen the movie, is a bad guy is on his way, a man named Tai Lung, and towards the middle half of the movie, you're been convinced that, yeah, he's a bad guy, and you know that. It's obvious, it's a kid movie. But what really stands out about him is his introduction. Compared to all the other villains I've seen in the franchise, and some people would argue this, but I think Tai Lung has the best introduction. Simply because of the build-up. You were not sure yet if you were to take this movie seriously until you saw him escape. And now, you're sitting there in your seat wondering, how on earth is our silly protagonist meant to stop the serious force that is on its way to destroy the village? That would be one area where I say they used a good balance between comedy, but a serious villain. See, I don't think there is any exact formula when it comes to villains and what kind they should be. It's really whatever fits your story, as well as whatever would get the most across to your audience. Let's use Mermaid again as an example. If she was more comical than she was serious, I probably wouldn't give her as many episodes, simply because I don't want to ruin the flair of her character. Who's a good guy as an example of this? Robodad. Yeah, Robodad is a comical-based villain. And for those who don't know, he's a scientist who created an intelligent AI and hoped to use it to take over the world. Unfortunately, the AI has the brain of a toddler. Yeah, he's comical. And I wouldn't dedicate too many episodes to him of great length. Now, he might make multiple appearances in silly episodes or even a couple large ones, but most of his attention is going to be solely on 1 or 2 episodes of Ivar, simply because there's just not a lot I can say without ruining the flair of his character. You don't want to overdo it. You don't want to ruin the momentum that the character has with your readers or your viewers, depending on what you're making. Whereas Mermaid, she is comical. I mean, all of Ivar has jokes. I'm not going to pretend and sit here and pretend that it's super serious and black and white. It has moments where it's a little bit of both. But Mermaid has more long-form episodes. Serious stories that can stretch out to being like small graphic novels. And this is purely because there's a lot to say and unpackage about her character. That she isn't just obsessed with Clay for the sake of being obsessed with him. She's obsessed with him because of some deep-rooted pain she's felt by other people. And perhaps she herself is after Clay not because she loves him, but because she's trying to get rid of those feelings invoked by him. Can I see what I mean? There's different layers to a villain. You just don't want to drag them on for too long. That'll be 30. Is that 35? Yeah, I've been doing 35. Excuse me. I need to go grab something. And I got it. Just had to go get a clock. Realized I didn't have any sitting next to me. Okay, 35, 25... Okay, so this is taking a little longer than I suspected it to be. I hope to still have some time to go more into character design. For both your enjoyment as well as mine. I love designing characters. It's an aspect of character creation that I've underestimated for years. Only recently have I really just got into just drawing them for the sake of drawing them, and not just drawing them because I have something to work on, like, say, a comic. Though I do have a small series of mini-comics I'm planning on doing, because Lone Wolf is going to take a while. I realized that, and that's no surprise, I expected it. But, I figured, why not make something silly and small to share with everyone? Not only does sharing your work in such a format give people an outlet to enjoy and learn about the characters, but it also is just good for you to get practice of drawing those characters over and over and over again. Because trust me, you do not want to design a character only to realize that you don't care to draw the same helmet, let's use that example, over and over and over again. If you find yourself drawing a piece on the character that you find annoying, you're forgetting a bunch, or just doesn't look the same every time you draw it, you need to do one of two things. A, remove it, and just go without it because it's clear that you're physically incapable of remembering it every single time, or it's going to hurt your hand, and you're going to spend 2 hours drawing that same detailed helmet, or you simplify it. I always try and simplify it first. I like parts of the character. Like, let's use Kanu, for instance. I never remember the fact that he's supposed to be carrying a glowing stone. You'd think I would remember that. I found that I could simplify it only through one way, and that is to save a copy of the stone and just kind of copy and paste it. It does help a little bit. It's not a fix by any means, but it does help. Wow, Callie is being really quiet. For a street cat, I expect her to be loud. See, this is exactly what I mean, though, by the idea that I don't think she's feral. And yeah, there is a difference between feral and stray cats. I lean to thinking she's a stray cat, just because how quickly she adapted to living indoors. My sister believes she has a home, or used to rather, because it's very clear nobody's been taking care of her since then. She looks bad, her hair's all sticking up, and she has injuries from fights. And of course the idea that she was having kittens, left and right. But yeah, I don't think she has a home anymore, because she got really thin by the end of things there. I mean, she recently just kind of showed her actual body shape, and she is so thin. I mean, bone thin. It's kind of scary. But yeah, she's being really quiet right now. I'm so proud of her. Honestly, if I get to keep her, maybe she can be a stream buddy. Though I don't think that's gonna work out. Okay, this is gonna be a little tricky. This is small. Just a little bit of mermaid there, and a little bit of mermaid over here. But yeah, I got mini comics I want to do for some of the characters in Ivar, and I do not have a lot of experience drawing some of the designs. So I figured getting some practice in would be helpful. And you know, why not do it on stream? Why? Oh, okay. I had the wrong color. A little bit of mermaid's tail. $25, I think, yeah. For whatever reason, it's so hard to get 25 today with the little scrolly bar. Oh my gosh. 25! Please! No, it's worse. Can I do it with my finger better? Got it. Excuse me. Thought I was gonna sneeze. Excuse me. There it is. Wonder where my sneeze went. How much do we got left? Oh, we only got a little bit of mermaid to finish. And then we can go on to character design. Honestly, it's nice just having a little bit of mermaid sticking out of the water. I think it makes it easier. You know, actually, in the character designs, we have a new character joining the roster. Now, I knew about him for a long time. He's one of my first few I've ever designed while making the first episodes. And I just really haven't had the chance to share him on the channel or even my Blue Sky account. Now, the name is still a bit on the trial and error, but we've been going, me and my sister, we've been going with the name Matthew Martindale. Think of him a little bit like a ringleader at a circus. That's what he reminds me of design-wise. He's a proprietor in anything odd, strange, unique, and talented. Very much like a ringleader. I don't know if he'll get a mini comic, because he's just one of those villains that I don't necessarily believe he's a comic relief or anything like that. So I kind of want to save him for serious stories, but you'll probably will see art about him here and there on the channel. He was honestly really fun to design. Let me finish up this picture and I'll show you his design. If I can get 25. I would just go with 24, but it is noticeable, especially on green. I think we forgot the blue. Yeah, it's not blue. Hold on. There we go. 35, and there we go. Now, real quick, let me go over to here. This man in the background is Matthew Martindale. Now, if you want to see a full picture, you can go over on my Blue Sky. I should have it linked in the description. But this is Matthew Martindale. We'll probably doodle a bit of him here in a second. Speaking of characters, something that I've been thinking about lately is Clay and Mermaid over here, but mostly just Clay. It kind of comes with the territory when you're working with characters in a story. Is it just me? But for whatever reason, when I draw, let's say, Mermaid right now, all I'm thinking about is Mermaid. My Clay thoughts, however, the main character of Ivar, my Clay thoughts, however, have been a little bit mixed lately. I don't know if it's one of those you're in a rut and I'm not sure what to do. I don't know, I've been feeling a little bit of anxiety over how he's going to be perceived by the audience. I don't know, I guess it just has something to do with that when you release your character to the public, you do have to wonder, how are others going to take him? Are they going to accept what he is? Is there going to be debate? I'm not sure really what to expect yet. I mean, the mini-comics have been alright. Maybe it's excitement, a little bit of excitement as well. There's a lot about his character I haven't really quite got to explore yet. Most of which being his actual life as Ivar, the protector of the city of Hope Harbor. I mean, the mini-shorts are one thing, comical, silly, but I really don't want Clay to just be that silly character. He does have some serious moments, and those are the moments that I can't unfortunately share. There's a little bit of spoilers in there, so don't really feel like risking it yet. But I think it's a fine line between spoiling and intriguing others about the project. You don't want to say so little that people aren't invested, but you also don't want to say so much that feels like there's no need to be invested. Let's use this as an example. Let's use Clay. If I was to just say right now that this is a story about a guy who wants to be a hero, and that's it, some of you might have been interested in the concept of it, but I bet most of you are kind of like, yeah, but who doesn't want to be a hero? And that's fine. Those are valid questions. How I would probably reword this to be a bit more exciting would be something along the lines of adding on to his personality. Say, this is a story about someone who wants to be a hero, but then tag on, I'm not the great of words right off the top of my head, but then tag on something about how he also has to wrestle with the monster inside himself, that he isn't a hero, but he desperately wants to be. You know, just kind of tack something on there. I mean, one of this Clay's funny quirks is the idea that he talks in third person. He thinks life's a movie and therefore lives it out. Alright, that should do it for Mermaid. Now we can move on to the character design. I might come back and add a picture of Clay, but we're not going to do that today. Instead, we're going to draw some villains. So who do we have here? Right here in the corner, I'll circle in red, we have Barbarian, Lobo, Mermaid, Robodad, or Robert, Ted, and Matthew Martindale. So I think we'll draw Matthew first, as he's new to my designs. Now, I don't typically draw out a full skeleton, but I'm just doing one now, as I just need some direction. Yeah, usually in these rough things, I don't do very much skeleton drawing. I should, but I just want a quick doodle. Now, what I mentioned earlier, I actually had Matthew here much longer than some of my other villains. And part of this was because I really wanted to add him into the story, but had trouble figuring out if his actual current narrative, which I think has something to do with a circus gone wrong, there's a crook amongst the people, and this is kind of like a whodunit, but with no murder. Yet, at least. And of course, in the comic, Martin over here, not Martin, why do I call him Martin? Oh yeah, Martindale. Mr. Martindale over here plays the role of the innocent bystander. It's his brother, currently, that's the jack of all trades, the wild card that got himself sent to an asylum, which actually took place in the original story that I wrote. Just throw on the iconic mustache. Yeah, Martin doesn't... Again, Matthew. Matthew over here doesn't work alone. Not only is his brother, Joseph, a big help in whatever's going on beneath the curtains of this circus, but there's also another character, and her name is yet to be decided because I've just been going off of what she was originally called in the story. And by story, I mean like a bunch of really random scenes piled into a Google Doc. I don't like that hand. We're gonna fix it. But yeah, her name in the original writing was Madam Sea Lion, and she is an aquatic fauna of the Ivar universe. I don't know if the name will stay. I mean, it is possible for characters of a sea fauna descent to have sea-related names. That's nothing new. But I don't know if it really fits the overall vibe of which I want the circus, which I believe is called Matthew's Marvelous Wonders. I don't know if it's really the vibe I'm going for. I think I drew his hair wrong. Let's check. No, it looks fine. No, I do have to draw this little frilly thing. Now, I'm not good at drawing little pieces of fabric when it's bent like a corkscrew noodle. I don't know, I just never had a good hand at it. I just don't know what I'm drawing, so. A good time to learn. Though if I can't learn it, we'll be back at point 1 about being careful to not draw something on a character that you can't replicate multiple times. There he is. Matthew. We'll move him and his sketch over here in the corner. And I'm going to draw him again. I would draw his brother, but I actually don't have Joseph designed at all. I mean, I just finished Matthew over here like a day ago. Haven't had the time yet to truly explore the design of his brother, though I'd imagine they don't look that different. Actually, in the original story, Clay mentioned, because it was not a comic, it was actually a book. But Clay mentioned something about them looking rather similar, so I'm sure their designs wouldn't be that far off from each other still. I can't draw top hats for anything. You see, this is why we draw stuff over and over again, so that we can learn what our weakness is. Mine is top hats. Haven't also really decided on a shape of his nose. I mean, the design has one. Kind of almost like a triangle, but not quite. It's actually higher on the face than it is for other characters. I'm going to try and add that in. Yeah, that looks better. Just draw his bushy mustache. You know, actually, good question. Why do most circus-themed ringleader, magician, whatever, why do so many of those designs have a mustache? And why does it look so wrong when they don't? Because trust me, I wanted to design him without a mustache, but I just couldn't unsee the idea that he totally would have a mustache. But I also just couldn't live with the idea that he didn't have a mustache. It just looked weird. I don't know what it is. Like, is it just an overall stereotype now, or who knows? Now, see, this is what I was talking about this little piece in the front being difficult. I don't know what it is, but it's just very difficult to recreate from this angle only. Any other angle is fine. It's just when it comes from he's facing, for me, it would be, I guess, a left, but he's looking to my right. It's weird. Yeah, for whatever reason, it's just not easy to draw. Just draw his arms, have them folded. Draw those puffy sleeves. Actually, I'm going to fix the little stripe here. It's not really that important about the colors, but I still want to be able to see it. There we go. Matthew. Now we'll shrink this guy down too so we have more room on the canvas. Who's next? I think we will do Barbarian next. I don't nearly draw Barbarian as much as I used to. No, so you have no idea how much I would love to share the original comic where Barbarian came from. But I just have no way of sharing a traditional style comic easily. And it's really a shame too, because I mean, that was the first Ivar adventure I not only brought to life visually, but just we got to see so much more of the character that we don't normally get to anymore. Mainly because making a full-length comic is hard. I mean, it took a year, I think, to do Barbarian. Which, funny enough, the comic actually still doesn't have a name. I never named it. Yeah, we'll do that. But yeah, I would love to share the comic one day. I've just been having a hard time finding a way to share a traditional comic without having to necessarily upload every single image. If that's what it takes, then I'll do it. It's just, it'll take a really long time. I also recently came to know a bit more about Barbarian, and no, it's nothing serious like deep lore or anything secretive to share from Barbarian. Actually, it's more comical than anything. While Barbarian, in my opinion, does have some serious points in the story, the majority of his appearances are used for kind of the back and forth. If sometimes he's comical, and then sometimes he's super serious. And recently I decided something funny to add to his character. Excuse me. But yeah, something funny to add to his character would be his love for horses. Now, why horses? I'm not sure. I think it's just because I like the idea of a strong and powerful yet delicate creature. Yeah, and I think it reflects a lot about Barbarian himself too, because I mean he gives off this persona of big trouble, dangerous and fierce, but genuinely he's kind of fragile. He's got things in his life that he doesn't necessarily want to confront yet, most of which happen to do with an insecurity about his own worth as a person. And a lot of this, I think, honestly, is kind of reflected into his love for horses. It's a softer side of him that I feel like is both funny and genuine as a way of learning more about his character. He also got a redesign recently, which I'm still not sure how I feel about, but at the same time, he did need one. I felt like his design was just kind of sloppy the last time I ever had to draw it. And I still think the new one's a little sloppy too. But you know, that's why we're doing character design today. Just kind of getting a feel of what him as a character and everyone else is like when you draw them more than one time. Fitting bear teeth in his mouth, though, has always been a problem. I mean, they're not like full-on bear teeth, but they're the closest thing in this world that you could get from just being full animal teeth. Let's give him big, bushy eyebrows. There we go. Barbarian. So I will give him something around his neck. Kind of break up the shape a little bit. There we go. I'll draw an ear here too to help with the angle of which I drew his head. There we go. Barbarian. Nah, I probably spelled that wrong. Matthew, Barbarian. We might actually do either another Barbarian or a Lobo. Yeah, we're gonna go with Lobo. Actually, I'm gonna do a full body of Lobo. I need to practice some more anatomy. Pardon these wobbly sketches. Everything kind of looks funny until I add my pieces to it. There we go, I like this pose. Now time for the actual drawing. Now, Lobo is a great example of the serious villain needs to be taken serious. He would be the kind of guy that you physically could not make a bunch of jokes about. If you made a bunch of jokes about Lobo, then it kind of takes away the presence he has in a film. If, you know, he was in a film. Now, is that how I draw his little tough? No, I need to draw the outside of his beard differently. Yeah, he's the kind of guy that we can't really joke about too much. I mean, I could joke about him because, you know, he's my character. To me, he's always going to be kind of both-sided. But when it comes to actually writing him in a story, he is somebody that I genuinely have to take seriously. Now, actually, to sum up the conversation we've been having over stream, is if you want your villain to be taken seriously, and I mean genuinely want his story to be taken as both something to be thought on for maybe a couple hours, or just something for you to consider during watching the film or reading the comic or whatever. If you want your villain to be taken seriously, you need to take them seriously. Don't be like some of the big films out there that try and write a villain or any type of antagonist, and then they throw in a joke that is not only bad, but not necessary for the character or the moment. Don't be that. Don't be them. Care about your villain. It is my true belief that any villain, regardless of what form of media he's being created in, or if you're making a comic, it's my belief that any villain needs to have as much attention as your characters. He shouldn't just be something you come up with last minute. He should have stuff like this, dedicated time to learn his overall anatomy and design. Dedicated times to learning what makes him tick. Why is he the way he is right now? Something I do to remember this is I treat them like a second protagonist. If I had two protagonists in the Ivar story, it would be Lobo and Clay. That's who they are. Look at him descend upon his enemy. Yeah, but if you don't want to take your villain seriously, and you just want to laugh at them and do silly stuff, great example. There's a villain we have not met yet. In any form, not on my other socials, not on YouTube. It's just been between me and my sister, who's helped designing them. And you might think this is kind of funny, but his name is Turntable, and there will be explanation behind this really, really bad pun. But he's not very serious. I never plan on taking any of his stories seriously. He's the kind of guy you can make as much jokes about in your stories as possible, and he would still be funny, because that's part of his flair. You're not trying to make him suddenly serious, you're letting him just be the comical style villain he began as. Now that spear is totally bent. I did not draw that straight at all, but that's not the point. I'm working on his anatomy. I also keep forgetting these little glove things, and I would remove them for that purpose, but they just do not look right if I forget them. I think that's more on me to learn to draw them better. And it seems we've reached the end of our time. You know, we didn't get to draw Mermaid as I intended, but you know, she got a whole section in the beginning dedicated not just to her, but to character design and art. So I think we'll let that slide. We did, however, get work done on these characters. I saw a little bit of Matthew, worked on Barbarian, and got to have a full body of Lobo. But yeah, I gotta go. Cat's doing alright, but she does need to be fed here pretty soon. So, I won't be streaming next week, but I will be streaming the week after it, weather allowing. Because my power will get cut if it storms. So, until then, keep making stories, and I'll see you in the next stream.